the greatest sports debate show on the
For the first time since 2016, we have got a Game 7 in the NBA Finals.
championship rings. Starring Brandon
The Philadelphia Eagles are Super Bowl champions. Let's go to the championship ring.
I am loving this feud. Don't you dare shit on this. Don't you dare.
I'm going to shit on the stipulation of it.
Oh my God, the stipulation is fantastic.
now.
Happy 100 episodes. Yes, that is right. This isn't just any regular episode of Championship Rings. It is episode number 100. Brandon and I have been going at each other now for 100 episodes. Dude, at times, with how much you and I were going back and forth, I was like, I don't think we're going to make it to 100.
Well, it's probably technically 95 or 96 with a couple episodes we both have missed here and there.
Oh,
But nonetheless, we are here at episode number 100 Championship Rings, a jam-packed episode of Championship Rings. Yeah, our first probably 6 months to a year were a little rocky. Wasn't sure myself if we were going to make it, but here we are. And if you're listening for the first time tonight, know that we're going to be diving into week 10 of the 2025 NFL season, who the best possible team in college football will be. Plus, we got to talk some NBA news that broke today, so a lot to go over on today's show.
Yeah, plus we have the Battle of the Bluegrass State coming up tonight as the Kentucky Wildcats take on the Louisville Cardinals.
One of Josh's favorite rivalries in all college basketball is North Carolina versus Duke. We've had this conversation before on the show about whether it is a top rivalry or not, and I'm sure we'll get into it more as college basketball season commences.
That is correct. But
all right, go ahead.
I heard it was supposed to be an NFC Championship preview. I thought on the very first play last night, your Eagles would just go tush push, but they didn't. But for me, I'll let you go on the Eagles side of the equation in a minute because I know you're more of an Eagles fan. But for me, this game said more about the Green Bay Packers and specifically their head coach, Matt LaFleur. I think he should be on the hot seat after this game because think about this. His defense held the Cleveland Browns to 13 points. And they lost. His defense held Carolina relatively in check. I forget what the final score of that game was. So you'll have to forgive me. And then this week, the Packers defense holds Philadelphia, the reigning defending Super Bowl champions with Jalen Hurts, Saquon Barkley, Devontae Smith, A.J. Brown, that high-powered offense, to 10 points, and yet you still lose. Your general manager, Brian Gutekunst, pushes all his chips into the middle and says, I'm trading for Micah Parsons. And your offense comes out flat as a freaking pancake.
Who, for the record, last night, Micah Parsons led the Packers with 7 pressures. The rest of the entire team had 1 combined.
The week prior, the Packers defense held the Panthers to 16 points, and they still lost. So let me go over that one more time, and then I'll let you go, Brandon. In week 3, the Packers held the Cleveland Browns to 13 points, but lost. Last week, they held the Carolina Panthers to 16 points and lost. Last night, they hold the reigning defending Super Bowl champions to 10 points and lost. The floor is yours, Brandon.
So, I have rarely criticized Nick Sirianni, even when we were going through the supernatural funk 2 years ago. I defended Sirianni. I said he should not be fired. And they turn around last year. They win the Super Bowl. We know the whole 9 yards. I'm not going to put last night's game directly on Sirianni. I thought it was a weird game. I thought it was going to be a defensive game. I didn't expect 10-7. I thought it was going to be like 17-14. I thought it was going to be very similar to the NFC wildcard game a year ago. What I do want to talk about, and what I will put on the head of Nick Sirianni, is this. Josh, I have no earthly idea in the world of God's green name why on 4th and 6 from about the Green Bay 41-ish yard line, my Philadelphia Eagles decided to go for it, throw a ball up to A.J. Brown. That ball lands incomplete, and you give the Green Bay Packers the ball back with a chance to get in field goal range when your defense had been playing out of its world. Jalen Phillips, the new addition for the Miami Dolphins, who we talked about last week on the show, he made an instant impact with his Eagles defense. The Eagles defensive line looked like the defensive line from a year ago. Jalen Hurts did not play his best, though he made a few key throws when he had to, including the touchdown to Devontae Smith. I did feel like the fumble in the first quarter by Jalen Hurts and a great peanut punch by the Green Bay defense took all momentum out of the Eagles offense until the second half. And despite that, all anybody wants to talk about today is how that game was in hand and Nick Sirianni single-handedly almost blew it.
Well, you're lucky that the Packers kicker is Brandon McManus, and he completely screwed up the potential game time.
I thought that last kick was partially blocked. That's my opinion. I don't think you can miss a kick that bad because it had no chance. It looked like the way it was spinning. It looked like somebody in the Eagles special teams unit may have got a hand on it. Nonetheless, the whole end of the game situation was weird because they brought out for a 64-yard field goal. He got a practice kick way after the timeout was called. Then Green Bay brought back out the offense. They throw a quick out route for no yards, and then they bring him back out.
Yeah.
The whole sequence was weird. The whole game was weird. I will say, for a 10-7 game, I don't get the argument that it was a very boring game. I thought it was actually a pretty entertaining game for a 10-7 game. There was a lot of action in between the 50s. Just nobody, once they got past the 50, could put the ball in the end zone.
Oh, I agree. It was definitely a entertaining game.
I mean, it was a lot. Let me put it to you this way. That 10-7 game was a lot more entertaining than the 10-7 game we got on Thursday Night Football.
Yes. That 10-7 game was way more entertaining than the 13-3 game we got between the Patriots and Rams in Super Bowl 53. I can tell you that.
So, I mean, listen, the Eagles have been obviously a weird team this year. They're coming out their bye, but they still have control of their own destiny for the number 1 seed. And it'll be very interesting. We'll get to the game later in the show with the Lions. Dan Campbell's taking over play calling now. I don't know what that says about the Lions going forward. We'll talk about it. But the NFL is hard. As the Chiefs last year, how many one-possession games they won at the buzzer, and they just kept on winning. So I think as long as this Eagles team keeps on winning, that's going to be the motto of this team, is do it any means necessary. And they're in prime position in the NFC East because since they last played in Week 8, no team in the NFC East has won a game. Whereas for the Packers, they're in danger of being, at best, third place in the division.
Yeah. To finish off your point on the Eagles super quick, the last time we had a repeat division champion in the NFC East was, I think, 2004 when your Eagles
It was
did
the 2004 Eagles who won it in 2001, 2002, 2003, and 2004. All of those teams went to the NFC Championship game, and 3 of those teams did not make the Super Bowl.
So, and ever since then, we haven't had a repeat NFC East champion, but given the state of the division, I think your Eagles are going to break that streak. But again, not to diminish the Eagles, but I think the Packers side of this is far more interesting.
Well, here's a question I have for you, though. How much are we going to put on LaFleur? How much do you think it's on Jordan Love, who I thought could have been an MVP candidate coming into the year, and he has not played like it? And the other thing is, how much are we going to put on? Is this just because Tucker Kraft is now out for the year? Matthew Golden did not play last night. Romeo Dobbs leaves the game early in the fourth quarter with a chest injury. Is it that? Is it injuries? Is it scheme? I don't know what it is.
So, if you remember, and I'm going to keep bringing this up, we both had the Packers reaching the Super Bowl. I have them beating the Baltimore Ravens. You have them losing to the Buffalo Bills. I'm going to keep harping on that. And we both had the Packers. I think you had the Packers finishing as the 2 seed. I had them as the 1 seed, if I'm not mistaken.
That is correct.
Okay. And yet here they are sitting in third place in the NFC North, not just behind the Detroit Lions, but also behind the Chicago Bears. Which that really says something to me. But yeah, it seems like Matt LaFleur doesn't want to give Jordan Love the chance to be a risk-taking quarterback. It's kind of interesting when you look at the philosophies of these two head coaches in terms of their quarterbacks, where it's almost like Nick Sirianni and Kevin Patullo for Philadelphia don't want Jalen Hurts to be a risk taker. And yet I would say that's the type of quarterback he is.
I disagree with you, because if you look at the numbers, Jalen Hurts throws 25 times or less and doesn't turn the football over, the Eagles are almost undefeated.
Okay. No, I not. That's fair. And then with the Packers, I almost want to say the same thing.
I think it's the opposite. I think that Jordan Love wants to be a risk taker.
Yes, that's how I meant. That's how I meant to say it.
And LaFleur is not wanting him to be a risk taker. Where I think Jalen's personality is actually, I'm going to do what's best for the team. I'll throw for 300 yards or I'll throw for 50. I don't care.
I thank you for saying that. That's how I meant to say it, where Jordan Love wants to be the risk taker. Jalen Hurts, he can be, but he doesn't necessarily want to. I appreciate you saying that because I just said it wrong originally.
No, I completely agree. But we do got to move on and talk about a coach that was fired in the Big Apple after blowing a 17-7 lead. I had the Bears bet in this game, and I thought my bet was in trouble because it was minus 3.5. And all of a sudden, Jackson Dart goes down from a knee to the head, and Russell Wilson comes in, and it's the end of the Giants as we know it, and it's the end of the Brian Daboll era as we know it.
Yes.
What?
I think the Giants, if I'm not mistaken, have blown 4 double-digit leads this season. 4 of them.
For sure, Chicago and Denver. I don't know the other two. Maybe Dallas. I think Dallas was one of them in week 2. Yeah, they had a 23 lead.
I think you're right.
There was one more that I think you're right on that I can't recall at the top of my head.
But it's not just the 4 double-digit blown leads for me. It's the fact that Jackson Dart, after being evaluated for concussion, that was his 4th time being evaluated for a concussion this season.
He's got to learn how to slide. I mean, that's coaching, but also I'm not going to put that on Daboll because some guys like Robert Griffin III just don't learn how to slide.
And that's totally fair. I understand your point there. But for me, it's more about Daboll. You got it. If it's your quarterback's instinctiveness or instinct rather to just run like a bull through a china shop.
Well, also he has no choice because he does not have Malik Neighbors. He does not have Cam Scatterbo. Nobody else in that offense at this point in time now is a playmaker. I said when Cam Scatterbo went down, I said, that's it. Their season's over. They're not going to win another game. They might win one because they don't have any more playmakers. And Dart is literally their only playmaker that they have. So he's thinking to himself, I got to get every single possible yard I can because one, my defense is not the defense of Denver or the Rams or Philly or Kansas City where they're not getting consistent stops. So I got to go make a play.
Okay. Did you hear what Dan Orlovsky said during Monday Night Countdown yesterday?
I did not know.
He said that if he were the New York Giants, depending on what happens in Cleveland, I would go after Kevin Stefanski.
Now that's interesting. Here's the name I was going to bring up for the Giants, and it's the same name I brought up for the Browns a couple times that I don't know if anybody's brought up yet. Obviously, the name out there that I'm not going to bring up, but that people have brought up is Lane Kiffin. And I don't think it's going to be Lane Kiffin because I don't think Lane Kiffin would leave for the NFL. I think if anything, if Lane Kiffin is leaving Ole Miss, I think he'd leave for Baton Rouge. So the name that I think the Giants should go out and hire is a man who, back in the day for this team, when their head coach was Bill Parcells and they won 2 Super Bowls as their defensive coordinator, is the current head coach at North Carolina. And his name obviously is Bill Belichick. I think if you convince Bill to work with Joe Shane, Bill has a lot of respect for the Giants organization. Bill would get to essentially pick his quarterback in Jackson Dart, and then Bill could work with the defense and get the defense up to speed, no problem. But the problem at the end of New England was he didn't have a quarterback. If you think Jackson Dart is your quarterback, I think Bill would have no problem going back to an organization that he clearly respects. As a matter of fact, I think he was disappointed a year ago that Daboll was not fired because I think he wanted the Giants job and it wasn't open.
Are you surprised that the Giants only fired Daboll but kept Joe Shane?
The interest, I'm surprised at the wording. And what I mean by that is their wording was Joe Shane has built a great roster. The Joe Shane who let Saquon Barkley walk out the door to pay Daniel Jones. And then they got Daniel Jones killed and they couldn't afford Daniel Jones anymore. So Daniel Jones goes up to the Colts and was having an MVP season at one point.
Well, Daniel Jones made a quick stop in Minnesota before going to the Colts, just for clarification.
Yes, but he never played for the Vikings.
No, but I will say I think being in the Vikings organization greatly helped him before going to the Colts.
That's fair. I thought they did have a good draft. Obviously, Cam Scatterbo, I think, is a good pick. Andrew Thomas was a good pick. You have Malik Neighbors in these recent couple drafts.
I like Abdul Carter.
I like Abdul Carter. He hasn't had the impact that I thought he would have. So for the Giants, I just think you need to go get Jackson Dart more weapons. I don't think Daboll was the problem. I think Daboll can actually coach, and I think there is a landing spot for Brian Daboll if he wants it potentially that could open up.
It would not surprise me if he ends up being an offensive coordinator again somewhere.
Well, I'll tell you this. I will not be surprised next year if Brian Daboll is coaching a certain NFL team.
Okay. Interesting. But you look at the Giants, and overall, I like their defense with Abdul Carter. Brian Burns is there. Kayvon Thibodeau. they can get after the quarterback. But once you get past the D-line, there's not a lot there for the Giants. So,
yeah, I mean, you know what this sort of felt like to me? This sort of feels like the Baker Mayfield situation when he entered in Cleveland, right? He's on a 2-win football team that's got a little bit of momentum with Hugh Jackson. They lose a couple games. You're like, the defense is good, but then the coach gets fired, and then he has to start all over next year. So it really depends on who the Giants bring in. I think they should bring in an offensive head coach. I hope they get the coaching hire wrong. I'm not rooting for Jackson Dart to succeed because I'm an Eagles fan, but I'm not rooting for him to get killed either.
yeah, I understand. Do you remember when they hired Joe Judge to be their offense or their head coach? Good
How
God.
about Ben McAdoo, Pat Shermer, Joe Judge, and Brian Daboll? I have said for years, Josh, don't know if I've said it much on this show, but I have said for years, the Giants are the Browns of the NFC. And I thought the last couple of years, the Giants are worse than the Browns.
So let's say, hypothetically, that the Cleveland Browns do fire Kevin Stefanski. Which do you think is the more desirable job, the Giants or the Browns?
Oh, God. Well, it's close. I think it's the Giants for one reason. And I don't think it has to do with any of each other's roster. I think it's the Giants because they're in the NFC. And I know you have Philly there that you got to go up against. But in the AFC, you got to go up against Mahomes, Allen, Herbert, Lamar, Joe Burrow when he's healthy, etc. In the NFC, yes, there's Matthew Stafford, but he's getting older. Yes, there's Jalen Hurts in that Eagles roster, but even as an Eagles fan, I don't think they're going to be the Chiefs. I don't think that they're going to make the Super Bowl every single year. Yeah, you got the Lions, but Goff is also an older quarterback. There are, I think, more questions in the NFC than there are in the AFC, even though I think the NFC at the top, at least this year, is stronger.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with you. But it's not for the reason you mentioned, though I don't disagree with your reasoning about the NFC being like the weaker conference compared to the AFC.
I think this year it's actually stronger, but if I'm looking at a job, I think I'd rather take my chances in the NFC than the AFC when it comes to the playoffs.
So when I say the NFC is the weaker conference, I mean in terms of specifically quarterbacks. Because you mentioned it, in the AFC, you got Mahomes.
At the top, yes. I think the NFC actually has more talent at the bottom than the AFC.
That part I agree with you. But the reason I would go with the Giants instead of the Browns is because the Giants are a family-run organization with the Maras and I believe the Tishes, if I'm not mistaken.
I think you're right on that.
Whereas I don't trust Jimmy Haslam to run the Browns. No way. Think about some of the moves the Browns have made. It feels like it's Jimmy Haslam trading Baker, trading for number 4, drafting Shador. It all smells like Jimmy Haslam. And that the Browns organization just reeks of instability.
All right, Josh, we may not agree on this next topic. Are the Bills, after getting absolutely annihilated by the Miami, I mean, this thing wasn't even close. The Dolphins obliterated the Bills in their own building down in Miami. The question on the screen is, are they contenders or pretenders? And let me clarify for the audience before you go. What we mean by this is, are the Buffalo Bills still premier Super Bowl contenders?
And the answer for that, well, here's the interesting thing. Buffalo had won 7 straight against Miami coming into this game, which includes a 31-21 victory back in week 3 on Thursday Night Football in Buffalo. The last time the Dolphins beat the Bills was in week 3 of the 2022 season in Miami. That was the game. It ended like 21-19 with the weird shadows and all that.
Oh, yeah, that's right. But I mean, Miami's always played Buffalo tough, though, even in Buffalo.
That part is true, yes. But, and I said this to you, and I think this is part of the reason you put this question as a topic. If you take Josh Allen off of the Buffalo Bills, they're the same team as the Cleveland Browns in that regard. That's how valuable Josh Allen is to the Buffalo Bills.
And I think at the trade deadline, it was telling that Brandon Beane admitted they wanted to trade within the division and get Jalen Waddle from the Miami Dolphins, and Buffalo offered a 2027 first. Sounds like Miami wanted the 2026 first. I'm shocked Miami even entertained it in the same division. But to me, the fact that Buffalo was trying to go out and get that wide receiver tells me that they feel like they don't have enough. And now this Dalton Kincaid injury is going to change things too if he's out for a significant amount of time.
And with all that being said, I believe the Buffalo Bills window is closed.
Wow, wait, you're not saying it's closing. You are saying currently today they have no shot to win the Super Bowl. It's closed.
Closed. I think they are pretenders. And the old empire is back. Not only do I think the New England Patriots are going to win that division, but the road to Super Bowl 60 at Levi Stadium in Santa Clara, California, is going to run through Gillette Stadium in Foxborough, Massachusetts.
Yeah, I mean, right now, I'm being completely honest with you. If you were to tell me right now what the AFC Championship game is going to be, I think most people would probably tell you it's going to be Kansas City going to New England.
Yes. So for me, because the Buffalo Bills didn't do anything at the trade deadline, and given how much they depend on Josh Allen to be Superman, I have to say they're pretenders.
So here's where I'm at on this. History usually tells us that quarterbacks in their first or second year without a great roster around them, because I still don't think New England's roster is great. Let me clarify that. I think they are a year ahead of schedule. I think that there are holes in that roster still, particularly on the offensive line and at the skill position group, receiver and tight end. I like Hunter Henry, but I don't think he's a world beater. I do think Travion Henderson finally breaking out and me leaving him on the bench in fantasy football this week.
That's how I felt leaving Matthew Stafford on the bench in favor of Jalen Hurts.
Yeah. So I think that breakout helps them. I think that was a very impressive win. Going down to Tampa, I was so impressed. Even though the Bucs are banged up, I thought Todd Bowles and that blitzing style would get after Drake May. I thought New England would struggle on the road.
Here's my one concern with New England coming this offseason.
Hold on. Let me see if it's the same concern I have about that.
Okay.
That is, do you know Drake May leads the league in sacks this year?
Okay, so it's not the same concern.
Okay. That's my concern, is I think Drake May is going to end up getting hurt. They do not protect him. He's putting up great numbers, and they do this great job in the second half of really adjusting, and Drake's been great in the completion percentage department. But him and Justin Herbert are getting hit more than Cam Ward. I didn't think that was possible with how much Cam Ward was getting hit.
So I agree with you, but my concern is the fact that Stephon Diggs is only on a 1-year contract. So if they don't re-sign Stephon Diggs, where are they going to find another top target for Drake May?
It's
is
called the draft. We know look at Emeka Buka this year. They found him at what, pick 18?
yeah. So that's my concern though for the Patriots is do they have enough weapons around Drake May, and what happens if they're not able to re-sign, Stephon Diggs. But to get back to the Buffalo Bills, it's interesting. It's almost like they treat the Kansas City game like it's their Super Bowl.
They do. And as I said last week to you, the Chiefs are the Warriors and the Buffalo Bills are the Houston Rockets. Where the Rockets were so obsessed with beating Golden State, right? They did all these analytics. They went to the James Harden, the point guard, and the no center lineup because we're going to beat Golden State with all these threes. And then they don't beat Golden State, and look what happens to them.
Yep.
I think the same thing. I think Buffalo is obsessed with Kansas City. And I think
about this, and we talked about this last week. They made all these moves in the offseason for one reason, just to beat Kansas City. And you did that last week. But what happened when you went down to Miami and took on a very dysfunctional Dolphins team that fired their general manager in Chris Greer? They're going to keep Mike McDaniel as their head coach for the rest of the season, which I still don't understand. They trade Jalen Phillips. Everybody thought they were going to trade Jalen Waddle and some of their other pieces.
Maybe Minka Fitzpatrick. I know he was being dangled at the deadline.
Yeah. And you come out flat. I don't want to say flat as a pancake because that's what the Packers were.
Well, there are rumors going around that Josh Allen had the flu. He certainly did play like it. He was completely off the whole game. Who knows if that's true or not? But this is the one thing I wanted to bring up. The last topic we talked about Brian Daboll. Before Brian Daboll got the job with the Giants, he was the offensive coordinator of this team, the Buffalo Bills. And before he got that job with the Giants, I think it was right before we started our championship ring show. It was going into that season. And I had said, if I was the Bills at that point in time, I would not have let Daboll left the building. I would have actually let Sean McDermott go, and I would have promoted Brian Daboll to the head coach of the Buffalo Bills. I like Sean McDermott. I think he's a very good coach. I think he's a great culture setter. If the Browns were to fire Kevin Stefanski and McDermott came here, I would absolutely love it. The problem is, I think Sean McDermott is sort of like a Mark Jackson or a J.B. Bickerstaff of the NFL, which is where he can get you wins. You can win divisions. You can be a really good team. But he's just not the guy that's going to get you over the top into the promised land. And I think it's very interesting if Daboll's job is available and Buffalo does flame out early in these playoffs, is Josh Allen going to say, go get me that guy?
I hadn't even thought about that as a possibility. But it's so interesting when you look at the state of the AFC. You got the Patriots, the Broncos, and the Colts as the top three in the AFC.
Just like we all predicted coming into the year.
Yes. And I think Baltimore is a freight train coming right down the tracks. They're going to destroy the Browns on Sunday. Lamar is going to have a field day.
Don't be so sure.
I am not going to be at that game on Sunday. Due to personal reasons, I will not be going to any more Cleveland Browns games this season, and we'll see moving forward. But I'm not going to speak any more on that. That is personal to me. But you got the Steelers faltering. Baltimore's coming. And you got the Chargers and the Chiefs along with the Broncos. And I thought Houston was dead and buried, but now they're back at 500.
A 19-point comeback in the fourth quarter by Davis Mills.
Yes. So is there a possibility where somehow, some way, the Buffalo Bills miss the playoffs?
If they lose to Tampa this week, it's a possibility.
Which I know the Buccaneers are banged up, but I wouldn't put it past Baker Mayfield to pull off a road win in Buffalo. No way.
Let's go to a big NFC matchup, though, between the Seattle Seahawks, who I this year predicted would win 6 games. They've won 7 already. They are 7-2. The Los Angeles Rams with Matthew Stafford, who, remember, in our NFL prediction show, we both said, is Matthew Stafford even going to be healthy this year? And yet here he is playing at an MVP level. And these teams, Josh, you have been saying for the past couple of weeks, Lions Bucks is going to be the battle for the number 1 seed in the NFC. Before the year, you said Packers Eagles is going to be the battle for the number 1 seed in the NFC. Are we saying that about this game now between the Seahawks and the Rams?
Here's the only asterisk I would put on that is the Eagles already beat the Rams back in week 3 in Philly. So the Eagles have the head-to-head tiebreaker over the Rams. Whereas if Seattle wins, I don't know what the tiebreaker would be between those two.
So you're saying I should theoretically be rooting for the Rams?
Yes.
I'm interested to see. Seattle is a young team. They're flying around. They just completely decimated Arizona. That game was over in legitimately 5 minutes, and I'm not joking.
That defense, can I speak on that for a second?
Go ahead.
Mike McDonald has turned this defense into the second version of the Legion of Boom. Like, this DeMarcus Lawrence leaves Dallas and goes, you want to see me get a strip sack? You want to see me do it again? This defense is just flying around. They hit you hard. If you're not ready, they will just blow you away. And then I want them to run the ball more with Walker and Charbonnet. Like I told you, I think Rashid Shaheed was the most impactful move of the trade deadline because now defenses can't rotate their coverage towards Jackson Smith and Jigba. You have to worry about Shaheed on the other side. And I think that's going to be the most important matchup in this game is the Seahawks passing game against the Rams secondary, as in their cornerbacks and safeties.
So I said last week, and this is why I think that this game matters more to the Seahawks than it does the Rams, because I think the Seahawks are playing like legitimate Super Bowl contenders. The problem I have is last year at 14-3, the Minnesota Vikings were also legitimate Super Bowl contenders. And then the last week of the year, Sam Darnold plays awful against the Lions, plays awful against the Rams in the playoff game, and now he's here in Seattle. I think the Seahawks need home playoff games, and I think the Rams are more seasoned than Seattle. And in my humble opinion, outside of Baker Mayfield, this will be easily the best quarterback Seattle will have faced all year long to this point in Matthew Stafford. They will be tested. We're going to know for sure how good Seattle is after this game.
Okay. I know that the NFL generally does not schedule both divisional matchups to be on prime time, but schedule makers, what are we doing? You could have easily flexed this game into Monday Night Football instead of Cowboys Raiders. Really?
Well, actually, They can't, because by rule they can't flex a Monday night game until week 12.
This is week 11, but still, that's stupid. This game is much better than Cowboys Raiders. I'm sorry, but that game's pathetic.
Yeah, how Dallas got a Monday night game and then a bye and then another Monday night game is beyond me.
Yeah, and Dallas also has more like national spotlight because they get to play the Eagles at home. Then they host the Chiefs on Thanksgiving. I don't know why the league is obsessed with the Dallas Cowboys.
I think they play the Lions on Thursday night after that.
But so I think while I understand what you're saying about the NFL can't flex games into Monday night until week 12, in this case, I am saying that is bullshit. This game should be flexed into Monday Night Football. It is potentially for the number 1 seed. These two teams are so evenly matched, in my opinion. I would give the slight edge to Seattle right now because of their defense.
Well, it's crazy. Hold on. I'll just go back to your point about the flexing of the Monday Night Football game. You know that Tom Brady and Kevin Burkhardt are not even calling this game?
What game are they calling?
They're calling Packers-Giants.
Are you what?
I'm serious. Joe Davis and Greg Olsen are on the call for Seahawks Rams.
That's even worse.
I love your reaction.
That's even worse.
Greg Olsen is the best analyst in the game. I mean, you can't. I know Joe Davis can be annoying, and he is, but I put up with him because Greg Olsen's so great, in my opinion.
Oh, I hate Joe Davis after the way he called the World Series.
But I mean, to your point, you're saying this thing should be flexed into Monday night. The NFL isn't even having its A crew at this game.
Yeah, which is stupid. I'm in the Cleveland area, so are you. Guess what? I can't watch this game.
Because we're getting Browns Ravens at 4:25, which why they made the Browns home game against Baltimore in the 4:25 window, I have no idea either. But
Browns Ravens is airing on CBS at 4:25.
Yes, but the NFL rules say that if you have a team at home, you can't have another game on the other channel. I don't know if you knew that or not.
Which means because the Ravens are playing the Browns at 4:25, guess what game I cannot watch? Oh, I don't know. Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs against Bo Nix and the Denver Broncos. Which game do you think I'd rather watch?
It may be worth it for you, man. Just invest in a half a season of Red Zone at this point.
I have NFL Red Zone.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Yes, but still, this type of thing pisses me off. And as I just got the loud environment notification on my Apple Watch.
As Josh is getting angry. Well, speaking of Chiefs Broncos, should we move on to that game? Because, Josh, I know what people are going to tell me. Oh, you say the Eagles win a tough game 10-7, but then you're cramping on the Broncos for winning the game 10-7. There's a difference. The Eagles were on the road against a good Packer team, no matter what you think about the Packers, in a 26-degree environment in Lambeau Field. The Broncos were hosting a helpless Raiders team at home. And they've done this every single week where they should have lost the Giants. They should have lost to the Jets, who beat the Browns with 50 freaking passing yards. Okay? The Broncos are not good. There is a reason why the Chiefs are favored on the road by 3.5. Some books say 4.5. That never happened for an 8-2 team against a 5-4 team. This is a Kansas City blowout coming off a bye, in my opinion, written all over it. I think this could be like 27-13 Kansas City. And before you go, one more thing. Very interesting this week on Friday. After the Thursday night game, you know that Sean Payton, before he took over the Denver job, he used to work at Fox. Well, he was at Fox. 2 employees there, Colin Cowherd, Chase Daniel, got very close to Sean Payton. before the Raider game, they were talking about how great Bo Nix is and he's a perfect fit for Sean Payton. And then after the Broncos Raiders game Thursday night, both came out on the air on Friday and said that Sean Payton may be thinking about getting another quarterback. I don't think that's accidental. I think Bo Nix has regressed. I heard Dan Orlowski, who you mentioned on ESPN earlier, talking about the fact that in the pocket, there is a clean pocket. There are guys open. He's not seeing it. And I don't care what Denver says. You're 8-2. You're probably the worst 8-2 football team I've seen since maybe the 11-0 2020 Pittsburgh Steelers.
It's funny you mentioned the 2020 Pittsburgh Steelers because I was going to bring them up as the perfect comparison. And it's ironic that I'm the one saying that because I predicted the Broncos to win the AFC West when we did the prediction special.
And here's the funny thing. If they somehow win this game, you're right, because they're going to win the division.
Yeah. But that being said, I still think this game is more important for Denver because you have Kansas City, who is a veteran group. Patrick Mahomes has never been eliminated prior to the AFC Championship. He's a 3-time Super Bowl champion, 3-time Super Bowl MVP, so he knows how to win these types of games. And on top of that, I don't think the Broncos are going to have Patrick Surtain because he's on IR, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep, you're right.
Which, in my opinion, that's a little bit of the Chiefs' dark magic coming back into play for whatever it's worth. But with Patrick Surtain out, he's really the captain of this Broncos defense. And yet they did play well against the Raiders on Thursday, but there's only so much the defense can do before they just get tired and whatnot. And your offense is going to have to step up. And
that's the other thing that I think was the difference between Philly's 10-7 win and Denver's 10-7 win was the Eagles' offense was mostly sustaining drives. They'd get a couple first downs. It would just either be a turnover or a penalty that would back them up, and they just couldn't cash in. The Broncos started this game down 7-0, and their first 4 drives on offense were 3-and-out, 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 3-and-out.
Yeah. I was expecting more out of Cortland Sutton this season. And I really liked the kid they drafted at running back, I think 20th overall, if I'm not
RJ Harvey. No, he was in the second round. It was Hampton who went in the first round for the Chargers.
Okay.
So here's the thing about Denver, though. It looks like to me, after Bo Nix struggles for about 3.5 quarters, Sean Payton just says, F it. Get in the no huddle and go out there and let it loose. And it's like Bo Nix just calms down. He turns into a completely different quarterback.
It's almost like he reverts back to what he was at Oregon.
It's weird. I've never seen a team like Denver. Now, they should have beat Kansas City last year in Kansas City, which is the other thing. We all remember the blocked kick at the end of the game where Denver had that game won.
Yes. And Denver has to play at Kansas City later in the season.
That's a Christmas night game.
Yes, I think isn't that a Thursday night game?
Yeah, it's technically the Thursday night game on Prime because Christmas is on a Thursday.
Yes. But I think the Christmas games again are being aired on Netflix.
That is correct. There's going to be 2 games on Netflix, Lions, Vikings, and then Cowboys, Commanders.
Okay. And then Broncos Chiefs will be airing on
is the night game 8:15 regular Amazon Prime game. Yes.
Okay, gotcha. We'll see how they do compared to the NBA, but we'll get
I mean, listen, I don't know. I think this game is equally important for both teams. It's obviously equally important for Kansas City if they want to win the division. But if Denver loses this game the way I think they could, Denver's going to be viewed as frauds.
You know what's interesting though, and we've You briefly mentioned them because of their offensive line issues and the fact that they could get Justin Herbert killed. But the Chargers, if you remember, started the season 3-0, or I think 3-0 if I'm not mistaken.
And 3-0 in the division.
Yes, that's what I'm referring to. They are currently 3-0 in the division. So, if Kansas City wins this game, that opens the door for the Chargers to possibly win this division.
Possibly. The funny thing is, at 3-0, we all thought the Chargers were the favorites to win the division, and now they're clearly in third.
Right. But I still think that if Kansas City wins this game, that reopens the door for the Chargers to win it.
Maybe slightly. I don't know. The Joe Alt injury, the Rashawn Slater injury, long term. Maybe they get Amari and Hampton back. The Chargers are like a week-to-week team. I don't know what to make of them.
Yeah, that was a bizarre game against the Steelers.
Who are you kidding? It was 5-3 until Ed McConkey broke the game open.
Yeah, I was like, wait, is this Steelers Chargers or is this Pirates against the Angels? Because to me, the Rams are the equivalent of the Dodgers, and the Chargers are the equivalent of the Angels.
That's interesting. Well, this Sunday night, I will be waiting all day for Sunday Night Football. Thank you very much, Carrie Underwood. As this is the matchup that everybody in the NFL wanted last year as the NFC Championship game, though it would have had to take place in Detroit between the Lions and the Eagles. We didn't get it because Jared Goff ended up crapping the bed against the Commanders in the divisional round, and the defense gave up, 45 points. And Dan Campbell now, in my opinion, weirdly and strangely and not very Dan Campbell-like, has all of a sudden taken over play calling for the Lions. Now, they did score on every single drive against the Commanders, but maybe the Commanders' defense just quit. This is going to be two bulls going at each other Sunday night, and I want to see how Jared Goff, in particular, handles the cold weather when he's got a pass rush right in his face.
So, you know what's interesting is on the Eagles' way to the Super Bowl, yes, they beat the Chiefs. Yes, they beat the Commanders. But for me, their real Super Bowl was the divisional round game against the Rams. And the reason I mention that is because we never really got to see what the Lions' Super Bowl game was, in my opinion, last season. For me, and why do I mention that? Well, it's because I think this is the Lions' Super Bowl game in the regular season. Does all that make sense?
I can make a case the Super Bowl game last year was maybe Minnesota week 18 to get to the 15 wins, to get to that number one seed.
Okay, that's fair. But do you understand what I'm trying to get at?
Oh, for sure. I think the Lions think that they would have beat the Eagles last year in the NFC Championship game, and I'm on record. Sorry to friend of the show, Jalen Sandvik, but I'm on record that would not have happened. And I think it's going to be a very close, very tight, very physical when they want to scrimmage. My Eagles defensive line, if they played like that, the way they did against Green Bay, that's how we're going to beat the Lions.
It's going to be really interesting to see the chess match between Dan Campbell and Nick Sirianni. By the way, I looked it up. Lions offensive coordinator is John Morton. Remember after week 1, we were like, who is this Lions team? That was unrecognizable.
And they got worked by Green Bay, and I'm here to tell you the same thing could happen Sunday night.
And yet, after that Green Bay game, we were praising John Morton, especially after that Chicago game where they put up 50.
Well, I said that was a bounce back game for that. I think the game that woke everybody up was the Ravens game.
That part is true, yes. And yet, as you mentioned, Dan Campbell took over play calling this past week against the Commanders. So I'm going to ask you this question. Do you think that says more about Dan Campbell, or does it say less about John Morton?
Oh, I think it says way less about John Morton. Do you think Dan Campbell ever once thought about taking over play calling from Ben Johnson?
Heck no.
There you go. There's your answer.
Fair enough. And do you think Sirianni will eventually take over play calling from Kevin Patullo?
No, I don't. Because he learned his lesson. Remember with the Brian Johnson situation where it was back and forth? Is this Sirianni's offense? Is it Brian Johnson's offense? It almost cost them his job. Remember Sirianni made the in-season decision to move off Sean Desai and then move Matt Patricia up, and that turned out to be an absolute abject, complete disaster of a football team.
Yes, because you lost to Drew Lock in Seattle.
Yeah, that was still one of the worst football memories of my entire life.
You're welcome.
But so no, I don't think Nick will do that. And I don't necessarily think Kevin Patullo is the best play caller in the world. I don't think he's no Kellen Moore, but I think there's guys way worse than him. Mainly a guy in Cleveland known as Kevin Stefanski. And a guy in Cleveland known as Tommy Rees. I don't think they know what the hell they're doing. And so I don't think Kevin Patullo is the worst guy in the world. There are some games where I think he's got a good feel for it. And for whatever reason, this Eagles team seems to be like they play better at home this year than on the road. I think they will be up for this game. And I think it's going to come down to which quarterback makes a bigger play, Jalen Hurts or Jared Goff.
In my opinion, Philly's best game of the season was when they went on the road and beat the Vikings. I thought that was their most complete game of the season. I know others would argue that their more complete game was when they hosted the Giants. But to me, when I look back at that Vikings game, that looked more like the Eagles we've come to know over the past.
That was the game that A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith both went crazy. The defense played better in the Giants game. And again, I think the defense has played well. I think it's going to come down to can they get pressure on Jared Goff, because we know what Jared Goff turns into if you can get pressure on him. These are the two best offensive lines in football. I think the Eagles' offensive line, I got scared last night when Lane Johnson went down. I thought his season was over. And then he ends up coming back into the game. The thing for this Eagles team is going to be, can they get Cam Jurgens back at center? Because he still wasn't back off the bye. That, to me, is the most concerning part of the offense.
For me, this game comes down to Sonic and Knuckles against Saquon Barkley. I think that's the matchup that will decide this game. I'd like to see the Eagles use other running backs, not be so Saquon dependent, not trying to take anything away from Saquon.
Well, they're starting to use Bigsby and Will Shipley. I know they want to take some of the load off Saquon, so you're not wrong there.
Right. But you know Detroit has a very well-established dynamic duo in Sonic and Knuckles, David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs. And again, we know Philadelphia is primarily going to use Saquon. You know, he's coming off of nearly breaking the rushing record. Many people thought he should have won MVP. Of course, people are saying the same thing about Jonathan Taylor now, for whatever it's worth. But that's a different discussion for another day. But either way, for me, it really comes down to whose running game will be established quicker. Because if Detroit is able to go in and on that first drive, just run it right down Philadelphia's throat. Granted, I get that the Eagles can make changes defensively, but if the Lions
I 100% agree with you.
Okay. Like, do I think Jamison Williams and Amon-Ra St. Brown and Sam Laporta are going to play a factor for Detroit? Yes. Do I think A.J. Brown, Devontae, and Dallas Goedert are going to make an impact for Philadelphia? I think so. I don't know. Because the Eagles' passing game is just so bizarre. So yes, I would agree with you. The Eagles have problems on the offense. I had Jalen Hurts, Devontae, and AJ Brown on fantasy last night. I just barely won my game, even though Jalen was projected to get me like 20 plus points or something.
We have fixable problems on offense.
Fair
Put
enough.
it that way. All right. Well, we talked about a lot of these games. So I think our top games of the week this week, I think this may be the quickest segment we've ever done because we've gone over a lot of these games. I am winning more creative and very political, improving offensive. So the last point I disagree with. I've told you this before. I like the fact that Jalen's not running a lot more. The offensive line execution, I think, will come with the addition of Cam Jurgens being back, and I agree. I think that mixing up the personnel would be better. But let's get to our top games. Obviously, for me, number one is going to be Lions Eagles because it is my team. I know Josh is going to have Rams Seahawks, which is understandable, or Seahawks Rams, excuse me. That's why I have it at number two. Number three is a game that we alluded to a little bit, that we didn't preview it in full. That is going to be the Tampa Bay Buccaneers going to the Buffalo Bills, because I think the Bills' playoff chances may be on the line in this game in Buffalo. Number four is Chiefs Broncos. And number five for me is a coin toss between two games. I could choose either one of them here. I went with Bengals Steelers only because I think that the Steelers AFC North chances may be on the line. The other game I was thinking about was Bears Vikings, but I think Steelers Bengals may mean more because I think there's only going to be one team getting out of the AFC North and not two.
Okay. So number one for me, you are correct. It is Seahawks Rams. We already talked about it. No need to go into it any further. Number two for me, Lions Eagles. Again, we already talked about it. No need to go into it any further. Number three, I thought you might have this game on your list. I'm curious to see how the Jacksonville Jaguars bounce back after that big collapse against the Houston Texans. You got the LA Chargers coming off of a Sunday night win against the Steelers, having to fly across the country to take on the Jaguars. Side note, my two favorite players of all time played for these two teams. LaDainian Tomlinson, Pro Football Hall of Famer. He played for the San Diego Chargers, not the LA Chargers. I had his powder blue number 21. I don't know what happened to it. I can't find it anywhere. If I gave it away, that was a silly mistake, but he's my all-time favorite player. I just loved the way he ran the ball. And then my second favorite of all time is Maurice Jones-Drew for the Jaguars. Again, he was a bit of a smaller running back, but like LT, I really liked the way he ran the ball. And
You
so,
can tell Josh grew up in Cleveland, Ohio as a Browns fan because he loves other running backs.
yes. So because the Chargers are playing the Jaguars, I had to put this game on my list because my two favorite players of all time, bar none, are their teams are playing each other. Though again, the Chargers should still be in San Diego, not in LA. Because I grew up knowing them as the San Diego Chargers with Phillip Rivers, Antonio Gates, LT, Keenan Allen, and some of the other greats. You know they're the only team to have numbers on the side of their helmets in the NFL, by the way?
No, I did not know that.
Yeah. So, long story short, Chargers Jaguars is number 3 for me. Number 4 is Chiefs Broncos. And then at number 5, I also have Buccaneers Bills. This game would be higher on my list.
The reason why I didn't include Chargers Jags, because I'm pretty done with Jacksonville. I don't know what to make of them. They're a weird team. I think Liam Cohen's pretty done with Trevor Lawrence too. Like, they're probably going to finish third in the AFC South. I don't really have much of a reason to care for them. I can't get a good read on them. Like, this will be a very good game. I think this could be the game of the 1 o'clock window. I just don't know what to make of it.
My honorable mention would be the NFC South matchup between the Panthers and the Falcons. You called it last week. Remember? You said for the Panthers coming off of winning that game in Green Bay, having to come home, play a divisional matchup against the lowly New Orleans Saints. You said that could be a trap game.
A lot of my buddies took the Panthers in survivor pools, and I told them don't do it.
And I said, I think you're crazy, but hey, you were 100% right. I will give you credit. And
all right. Go ahead.
And I picked Atlanta to win the division, and yet here they are sitting at 3-6. You know, you have all these first round picks, and no. So
not only that, they got blown out by Carolina 30-0. It's the only team Bryce Young ever plays well against, and the Falcons' season's on the line.
Yes. So for me, it is an honorable mention.
From the NFL to college football, because in my opinion, I'm just going to say this. It's been a very weird college football season. I think Gus Johnson had a heart attack on Saturday watching your Penn State Nifty Lions against Indiana and Mendoza, the touchdown pass the back of the end zone of the game. I still don't know what the hell he said.
By the way, the top 25 rankings are coming out right now as we're speaking.
Oh, are they? Do you have it on? Can we just bridge this topic? Can we do a live reaction?
Yes, we can.
Let's do it.
So Miami is at number 15. I'll tell you them as they come out.
Okay.
So Miami is 15. They have not yet revealed number 14. They must still be talking about Miami or something. Still nothing yet.
Okay. Anyway, while we're waiting for the dead air there, I do think back to our original topic on the bar. Go ahead.
Vanderbilt is number 14.
Vanderbilt. Okay. So I do think Ohio State is the best team in the country.
Utah is number 13.
Okay.
Okay.
I have nothing to say about Utah.
Okay. So in my opinion, Ohio State is not the best team in the country.
Well, who do you think is?
The team that went on the road and beat Notre Dame, the team that went on the road and beat Missouri, the Texas A&M Aggies.
That's fair. I don't think they have as much talent as Ohio State does. I watch Ohio State. I think they could beat the Browns, the Jets, the Titans, the Saints. I think they're that good.
Do you think Julian Sayin is the front runner for Heisman?
I would give it to Mendoza personally, especially with the way he played against your Penn State Nifty Lions on Saturday.
BYU comes in at number 12. They dropped 5 spots after getting absolutely spanked by Texas Tech on Saturday in a game I was very excited about because that was number 7 against number 8.
And while we're waiting, I'll throw this topic in there because you brought it up to me over the weekend. The fact that Texas Tech is not in the SEC, but Texas and Texas A&M are.
Yes, I find that fascinating. By the way, Oklahoma is number 11. So Texas A&M has been in the SEC for a while. I think at least since 2008 or something, if I'm not mistaken. I'll look it up to be sure. Speaking of the Texas Longhorns, they are number 10.
Oh, come on. They're not the 10th best team in the country.
I want to make sure I got this right. When did Texas? No, that's Texas.
This is the week they played Georgia. They're going to lose to Georgia.
Okay. Texas A&M officially joined the SEC in 2012. So I was off by 4 years. And Texas, of course, joined the SEC last season. And yet Texas Tech remains in the Big 12, which for me, that's really interesting because you would think that with both of them in the SEC, Texas Tech would want to join them. Notre Dame is number 9.
Okay, I can see that.
Oregon is number 8. So they move up one spot despite needing a last-second field goal to win on the road at Iowa. But
yeah, they should have watched that game to Iowa.
Ole Miss is number 7.
Okay.
So, but Texas Tech moves up 2 spots and they are now number 6.
My guess is it's going to go Bama. I don't know who would be at 4. Texas A&M, Indiana, Ohio State.
No, you would have Georgia and then.
Oh, you're right. Georgia 5, Bama 4, Texas A&M, Indiana, Ohio State.
Which is what it was last week.
So that makes all the sense in the world. There's nothing really surprising there to me besides Texas. I don't know how Texas, on a bye week, went all the way up to number 10. They're going to lose to Georgia.
They only moved up 1 spot.
They shouldn't even have been 11. I don't think Texas is a top 12 school in the country. I don't think they're going to make the college football playoff.
Georgia is number 5. I expect Bama to be at number 4, and they are. So now it comes down to the top 3. Again, I would have Texas A&M number 1. I would have Ohio State number 2. I would have Indiana number 3. But nope, Texas A&M comes in at number 3. So
that means Indiana will be 2 and Ohio State will be 1. There's no way that Indiana is going to come in at number 1.
No.
So,
in my opinion, like I said, I think Texas A&M has the better resume, winning at Notre Dame and winning on the road at Missouri.
No, you're right. Ohio State doesn't have the resume. They haven't played anybody good. They're just bludgeoning people.
Yeah.
In my opinion, I think you're right that could be the national championship matchup.
That would be a great game. And yes, Indiana comes in at number 2. Ohio State comes in at number 1. Ohio State plays UCLA at home this week. They're going to destroy them.
Yeah, whoop-de-doo. So again, Texas-Georgia is the game to watch because that's the game that I think we're going to see about Arch Manning is if he improves throughout the season because I think he's going to struggle.
I agree. Did you see? I know you don't watch College Game Day quite as closely as I do, but there was a lot of speculation that College Game Day was going to go to a D2 matchup this week, and yet instead they will be outside of Acrisure Stadium in Pittsburgh for Notre Dame against Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I don't get that. Why aren't they going to Athens?
SEC Nation is going to be there. But
weird.
I don't know. But there was a lot of talk on social media, especially after Reese Davis put it out there, that maybe they were going to go to a D2 matchup, Battle of the Ravine. I forget the 2 schools involved, but they're basically separated by a highway in Arkadelphia, Arkansas. It's Henderson against, I forget the other school off the top of my head. But people really wanted College Game Day to go there.
Well, let's move off college football. We're going to wrap up the night with some NBA talk. First of all, the breaking news that occurred today. Nico Harrison is out in Dallas about 7 or 8 months too late. It should have been fired on February 2nd, the night after he traded Luka Doncic to the Los Angeles Lakers. Mavericks fans have been chanting "Fire Nico" every home game since then. They blew a 13-point lead last night, which was apparently the final straw. But the weird thing here to me is, if you're going to fire Nico, you should have did it at the end of the season. I don't think it's fair to Nico Harrison to say, hey, you get the number 1 pick, draft Cooper Flag. You trade for Kyrie Irving. Oh, he's out for the year and injured. Oh, Anthony Davis, he can never stay healthy. It looks like he's injured again. And now, because we're 14th in the West at 3-8, we're just going to fire you. That, to me, I think Nico deserved to have his job fired after the Luka trade, but the timing of this, to me, is weird. It's like, oh, we're off to a bad start. We got to blame somebody. Let's blame the guy that traded Luka and let's finally fire him.
Yeah, I think part of it is the Mavericks are seeing how well the Lakers are playing this season with Luka, even without LeBron James.
Without LeBron, and Austin Reeves has been incredible. And that's a JJ Redick thing too, by the way.
JJ Redick, when I first heard they hired him, I was like, what? I don't get this. It smelled of like a LeBron-esque move, and yet he's proven to be a legitimate head coach.
I think the NBA is going to lean a lot more towards these Ben Johnson, because that's what JJ Redick sort of reminds me of, is that the NFL version of Ben Johnson. Young, offensive-minded, analytical. It's kind of what Joe Mazzulla is in Boston. And Jason Kidd is sort of the opposite old-school guy in Dallas. And they have mostly all bigs. So they tried playing Cooper Flag at point forward. It has not necessarily worked out. Now they're going to move Cooper Flag back to the small forward. You know, we said it. Rookies don't have a big impact in the NBA. And I know I was a little bit higher on Dallas. I thought they could maybe be a playoff team. You did not see it. But I don't think either of us expected them to be second to last in the Western Conference.
Yeah. And I don't think it was just the fact that they blew a 13-point lead. Did you see the interaction? I think it was the Mavericks owner that he had with the Lakers fan on the sideline.
No, I did not see that at all.
So I'll try to find it for you, but it was like there was like an interaction with the Mavericks owner and a Lakers fan wearing a Luka jersey. And apparently like the Mavericks owner was saying like, you know, I'm going to do right by this for the fans and whatnot.
Wow. And that's the new owner, by the way. That's obviously not Mark Cuban. You know what? How funny would it be if the Mavericks and Lakers made another deal and they traded Anthony Davis or like Kyrie to the Lakers?
By the way, Patrick Dumont is the Mavericks owner.
Okay. Yeah, it just sucks for Mavs fans, man.
Yeah. And this is only the start of the issues the Mavericks are happening, because they share the American Airlines Center with the Dallas Stars of the NHL. And those two are having legal issues about stuff with American Airlines Center. I don't know all the details, so I'm not going to try and get more into it. But those two are like basically suing each other about who owns American Airlines Center and what they can do with it. It sounds like the Stars want to try and move out and build their own arena, but the Mavericks are holding them hostage. I think I have all the details right. I don't know, but that's the extent of it that I know.
Sounds like the season of hell there in Dallas. But what it has not been the season of hell is the NBA ratings. Josh, this number, did you see the number? Because if not, I'll tell it to you. This number is astonishing.
No, I did not see this.
That according to the NBA, and this is a quick note here, national televised games. So that includes games on Amazon Prime, Peacock, ESPN, NBC, etc. They are up in ratings by a whopping 92% compared to last year. Now, what are the reasons for this? I don't think it has to do anything with the way teams are playing. I don't think everybody is tuning in to see the Thunder or the Nuggets or the Lakers or the Pistons or the Cavs or the Bulls or any of these early teams. I think it all mostly has to do with the games are now accessible. They're on Amazon Prime. You can get them on streaming. They're on NBC. They're on broadcast, as opposed to them being on TNT and not everybody having a cable subscription, and the fact that they are on every single night. So instead of you having to just watch ESPN on Wednesday and Friday and then TNT on Tuesday, now you get NBC on Tuesday, Peacock on Monday, Prime on Friday, ESPN on Saturday or Wednesday or whatever day they're on. So it's accessibility. And not only that, but with the streaming packages now these teams have for their local teams, everybody but the Rockets apparently has one now, is what is allowing for these fans to watch their team.
Yeah, I agree. And I also think the NBA is trying to put good matchups on these networks.
That, and they're trying to market their stars a little more, the Kate Cunninghams of the world. They had them on against the Wizards on Peacock Monday night. You have your SGAs, obviously. I'll say this. I think early in the season, this NBA season, there has been little to no defense being played. We saw the Cavs go to double overtime last night against Miami. Kate Cunningham missed 30 freaking shots last night, the most by any NBA player in a regular season game ever. And all these teams are doing is shooting. They're putting up 120 points a game. I myself, again, particularly do not find that entertaining, but maybe it teaches its own.
By the way, the doubleheader tonight on NBC/Peacock is Boston Celtics at Philadelphia 76ers, followed by the Denver Nuggets at the Sacramento Kings.
I also do wonder this. Is this 11 o'clock p.m. Eastern /8 p.m. West Coast start time for the NBA helping West Coast viewership? Because we thought it would hurt Eastern time viewership, and maybe it has a little bit. But that would be interesting data to see if this experiment by the NBA to start these games at 11 o'clock Eastern is actually helping because of the West Coast viewership.
Right. But that means for us on the East Coast, games aren't ending till like 1 a.m.
At least. And for those games are on Peacock always because our local news is on at 11.
That is true. And by the way, the national game tomorrow on ESPN, Magic Knicks at 7, and then it'll be Lakers Thunder at 9:30.
Obviously, Lakers Thunder is a good game. I don't know. I tell you this all the time, and I know you really don't understand why. I can't get in the NBA till Christmas. That's when the NBA really starts for me.
No, I do understand why. Because you don't feel like that the first part of the regular season really matters. And you know what? I do get that.
I think the NBA needs to cut the season down to 60 games or start the season later.
You mean so they don't butt right up against the World Series?
I think they need to come right up to the World Series, and as football is winding down, we can get right into basketball. I don't think anyone's really paying too much attention to basketball in late October and early November when it is football, NFL, and college football now, because I think college football is becoming the second highest viewed sport behind the NFL. And the World Series in baseball just got double what the NBA Finals got for Game 7, and we only had one U.S. team representing our rating system.
I think part of that is Game 7 for the NBA Finals was Pacers Thunder, two small market teams. Whereas with Game 7 of the World Series, you had two very well-known franchises in the LA Dodgers and the Toronto Blue Jays. Both have a long storied history. The Thunder and the Pacers don't necessarily have that. So to me, that certainly ties into it as well.
No, you're right. I think of this viewership story wasn't MLB viewership was up 10%, and everybody considered that a huge win. The fact the NBA is up 92% tells you it's a network-related issue.
By the way, Pat Murphy just won Manager of the Year in the National League for the second straight year for the Milwaukee Brewers.
Okay, and what did that get him? A sweep in the NLCS by the Los Angeles Dodgers. I'm
Correct.
interested to see if our Stephen Vogt potentially gets American League Manager of the Year. My guess is it'll go to Schneider or AJ Hinch, maybe, but I think Vogt
AJ
certainly
Hinch
in the
was
running.
not one of the nominees. It was Schneider for the Blue Jays, it was Stephen Vogt for the Guardians, and it was Dan Wilson for the Seattle Mariners.
Oh, okay. Oh, that makes sense. I think it could go to Toronto and Seattle. But nonetheless, go
My
ahead.
vote would go to Dan Wilson because the Mariners haven't won the division since 2001, and they made it all the way to Game 7 of the NLCS.
That's fair, but we are about out of time on episode 100. I can't believe it. We've hit triple digits of championship rings an hour and 25 minutes into this show. Thank you so much for those of you that have been sticking with us the whole time. Been here since episode 1 on September 5th, 2023. For the host of Brandon's World, I'm Brandon Lewis. He is the host of the Sports Room Talk Show. He is Ungar to the max, Josh Ungar. And this has been Championship Rings episode 100. And Josh, as always, my friend, you have the final words tonight.
In about a half an hour from the KFC Yum Center in Louisville, Kentucky, it is the Battle of Kentucky as the Kentucky Wildcats take on the Louisville Cardinals. Unlike Duke, North Carolina, where they play each other twice a season, these two teams only play each other once because Kentucky is in the SEC, Louisville is in the ACC. By the way, there is a possibility Duke and North Carolina could meet a third time in the ACC tournament at some point. But this rivalry between Kentucky and Louisville hasn't really been relevant in quite a while, and that's because Louisville has been pretty bad. But this is now a top 12 matchup. Kentucky is number 9. Louisville is number 12. Louisville is favored coming into this game. I hope the rivalry comes back. Of course, Louisville won a national championship in 2013, but that was later vacated. And because of that massive scandal, it's felt like Louisville has been down in the dumps for a while. They are usually a powerhouse in March Madness along with Kentucky. So hopefully this is the reignition of the rivalry tonight. I am for sure going to watch it because it is Kentucky-Louisville. I don't miss these types of rivalries. Hell, I get North Carolina Duke on my freaking birthday. Happy 29th to me.
I think with that, that'll be a good way to close the show. We'll see you next week on episode 101 of Championship Rings.
See ya. Go watch Kentucky.